start us off. And so thank you again to you all for coming along. Really exciting to see so many of you here for our Tech for Better showcase. And if you're not familiar with our Tech for Better programme, it's quite a broad programme and we're kind of expanding what we're doing over time as well. But to put it in a sentence, our Tech for Better programme is a programme for founders, for social entrepreneurs, anyone who works for a charity, to learn product management through kind of doing product management. So whether that's designing digital products, whether that's building digital products, or whether that's going out doing some user research, testing digital products. It's a program to kind of upskill those who want to do things with tech and do things with social good, with a meaningful impact. So let's jump to our next slide. So yeah, for this evening, we've got 3 presentations prepared. The first 2 will be from 2 of our product teams who finished our coding course towards the end of last year. And we also have a presentation from Sienna, who are our delivery team for some of the learning programs that we've been doing. So a little bit of a mixed bag, perhaps a variety for sure for this evening. So we'll have about 12 minutes for each presentation. So it should be short and sharp. And yeah, we won't take any questions, but if you do have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. And we will be recording today's session. It tends to only be that the person speaking is recorded, but if you prefer not to be recorded, feel free to stick your video off. And I think everyone will be on mute anyway. All right, and I think then let's jump in. So let me stop sharing my screen there, and I'll pass over to Shelley, Effie, and Jihoon for our first presentation.
Hi, I'm Effie, and for our Tech for Better project, we are working with the Digital Life Skills company to help them build their edutech app called Checkify. The development team consisted of me, Effie, and my partner Jihoon Jang, and the product owners consisted of Shelley Metcalf, Laura Cunningham, and Lynn Jones. I'm going to pass on to Shelley to explain a little bit more about what the app is about or what they aim to achieve.
Thanks, Effie. Yeah, so we wanted to look at an app that would teach children how to discern fact from fiction online in schools using a mixture of video explainers and quizzes so that we could assess and track their learning. Over to you, Laura. Are you on mute, Laura?
I think I'll have to make Laura our co-host. That's my bad.
Sorry, Gregor.
There we go. I think you should be able to unmute now, Laura.
Thank you, Gregor. Sorry, we've taken a bit of this each. So in terms of what we learned from the process, we learned a lot about the product development process. The thought-provoking questions from the team helped us really focus on what we wanted from this product. We learned that simple ideas can be surprisingly complicated to develop. So for example, we wanted to ensure that users learned and engaged with our videos and our content before doing the quizzes, and not just keep clicking back to redo questions that they got wrong. And the development team talked us through how that might be possible. And they achieved that, I think. And we learned how much a great development team can achieve in just 3 weeks.
Well, we expected, I don't think we had any particularly firm expectations, but we did hope to get a sense of whether or not an app or website could help us to reach more pupils in schools to help scale our services, and also get a better understanding of how we can use technology in the classroom to help educate children.
Thanks, Shelley. And our next steps, we'd like to test our product in schools, so with teachers and pupils. And explore further funding routes to develop the content and expand this prototype. The quiz structure is excellent, and we'd like to extend this with other features of the Checkify framework. Okay, thanks, Jihoon, I think.
I'm going to talk about our tech stack.
Our front end was built entirely in React using styled components for the CSS. And the reason we chose React was it's the most popular front-end JavaScript framework at the moment, and it renders faster because it's using Virtual DOM. And F and I both had some experiences with React, so we were kind of confident of using it. On our backend, we used Cloud Firestore, which is NoSQL database for our database, because NoSQL database doesn't require a fixed schema and it's horizontally scalable. And that was what we wanted for our database structure. And also the console is very intuitive and easy to use. So we can let our product owners edit the data easily through the console. And we use Firebase for the authentication and hosting as well. And for the planning and prototyping, we used Figma and Miro. And lastly, GitHub for version control. And this is our database structure. So we have two collections, which are quizzes and users. As you can see here on the left side, we have a document called Key Stage 3 inside of the quizzes collection. For further development in the future, more documents can be added here to have different levels of quizzes. And there are multiple choice and true-false collections in the Key Stage 3. And inside of each collection, we store all the questions. So when we render the quizzes to display on the website, we look through all the questions in the collection. So if we want to add more questions or delete some of the existing ones, then we just need to change the data in the database. And on the right side, we have a user collection. When a user signs up, a new user document is created in this collection. And in each user document, we store their personal information and their score, so we can track the score and we can use it for adding more points. And now I hand it over to Effie for velocity.
When we were planning how we would carry out the sprints, we used GitHub to organize our tasks into issues. We used the labels A1 to A7 and E1 to E7 for our actuals and estimates. We used S1 and S2 to decide what we could do within a week and whether we wanted to push it to the next sprint or not. As I mentioned just now, our estimates range from E1 to E7, with E1 being 30-minute allotments, increments, going up to 7 being 3.5 hours. In our first week, the design week, it was during Christmas period, so we thought we'd get it done quicker. So we estimated 8.5 hours to complete our task, but it took us 10.5 hours to complete our task. For sprint 1, we tried to overestimate a little bit or be a little bit more realistic, and we estimated 30 hours and we achieved our task in 28.5 hours. And for sprint 2, we estimated 21.5 hours and we achieved our task in 19 hours. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about our design, from the concept of ideas to the execution of the final product. Our design stack included styled components, CodePen and Figma. We used styled components to create reusable components, such as buttons, cards, and divs, to create consistency with our design throughout the app. And we used CodePen to visualize those components before adding it to our code base. We used Figma for our prototyping. We also used it to create little vectors or icons to add into our actual final product. I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of design. We started with Crazy 8, which is a design sprint method that aims to trigger quick thoughts in 1-minute intervals to pick main features and functionalities that the owners or we might like in the app. This was the result, and from that we created the initial prototype. This is the prototype that we used for our user testing. We had quite good reviews back from the students that we tested it with, but a common problem was that they didn't understand where the icons for the navbar was taking them to. So something we fixed on the final prototype was having better icons and just labels for people that may not be quick to understand where it takes them. And we also wanted to go for a balance between a more mature color palette, but also a color palette that appealed to a wider range of youth. So we changed the colors as well. And we ended up with the final Figma prototype. This is the prototype that we based the final product on. And Jihin is gonna help show you that through the demo.
Yeah, so I will take you to our website. So this is our landing page, and there are 2 buttons for sign up and login. I'm gonna click sign up, then we can see this nice form for signing up, but I already have an account, so I'm gonna just log in with my email. And if I put wrong password, then we see this nice little div. And so I'm gonna put the right one now. And after I logged in, and this is the account page, so we can see all the information, my name, email, and the score is 0 at the moment, because I haven't tried any quizzes. And if I want to update my email or password, then you can do it here. So, and there's these 3 tabs on the top, and I'm going to click options, and there are 4 images for different functions. So I'm going to click quizzes, and we can choose different levels here. So I'm going to go with the Key Stage 3, and there are 2 different kinds of quizzes. I'm going to try flashcard quiz, and now we can see the imagery and the question. So I'm going to go with the true, and then that was incorrect. So I get this description as well, so that I can learn from the quiz. Then if I go to the next one, then I see another quiz, and if I go false, then it was incorrect as well. So if I, since this was the true false question, if I wanna try to get it right, then I can just go back to the previous quiz. But if I go press the back button, then it moves us to the selection page again, so I can't just go back to the previous page to get more points. So this time I'm going to try multiple choice quiz, and to try the multiple choice quiz we need to watch the video first. And yeah, let's pretend that we watched it already. So I'm going to go to the quiz, and yeah, this is the multiple choices quiz. I'm going to go through quickly all the questions. And yeah, at the end, we see this nice winning page. And now we can save our points here. So if I click, and then if I go back to the account, then I can see my score is updated. So I have 100 points now. And then if I try different tab here, this is the resources page for storing and sharing the teaching materials. And if I click about page, then this is for instruction of the website and telling the stories of Digital Life Skills Company. And yeah, this is the account. So we go back to the account, and if I want to log out, then I can log out safely. And that's it for the demo. I'm going to stop sharing.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what went well. So we're kind of proud about using Firebase and Firestore and trying something new. It came with a lot of bugs and a lot of difficulty, but it was a good learning the journey. Forgetting words. It was our first time hosting on Firebase, using our database on Firestore and using authentication. So we used Firebase for everything, which had its pros and cons, like I said. Another positive was we achieved our deliverables, and we were quite realistic about what we could achieve in a short time period, and we communicated that to our product owners, who are quite good communicating what were must-haves and what were nice to haves and what we could achieve within that time. And like I said before, we worked well in the limited time that we had. We had really good time management and communication between ourselves as partners to kind of know what we wanted to do and when to do it. If we had more time to continue with the project, or how the product owners could continue if they'd like to. If you noticed, you have to complete the quiz completely to get points, so you have to get 100%, but we would have liked to have had it by a question-based point system, as so like 10 points per question rather than all questions right to get the points, to create a more complicated award system and awarding badges and so on. We would have liked the ability to enlarge images for people that are maybe slightly visually impaired, to create a more nested and reusable code base for the quizzes, because right now you can add as many questions you want within a quiz, but not necessarily render different quizzes within key stages. And if we had more time as well, we'd like to do more testing, develop out the key stage 4 routes and develop the resources routes a little bit more. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Effie. I think it might just be me on the clicks today because we got the mute on. Fantastic. Yeah, great work, team. It was so amazing to see kind of what you had validated within that time from both sides, in terms of kind of getting some feedback and then improving on that for the design of the app, but as well from your perspective, kind of Shelley and Laura, thinking about kind of building on your work and kind of how do we kind of keep pushing forward with this. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing to all of you. And let's jump to our next presentation. So I'll hand over to Shaya, Khadija and Luke.
Yeah, let me just share my screen.
Cool. Hello, welcome to our presentation. So we worked with Mindful Peak Performance. I will just go through quickly the agenda for today. We will have an introduction to our team, what the mission of the organization and the app was, the main tech stack that we used, and go through a quick demo of the actual app itself. And then we'll summarize with what we learned as developers and what the product owners learned as well. So in our team, it was me, Shaya, and Khadija as the software developers, and Luke was our product owner. The organization is essentially there to help give access to people with mindfulness education. So it's kind of a mix of both mental health well-being and physical well-being, and they do this by mixing boxing practices and mindfulness meditation audios. So what we had to do as developers was build a private platform for this user group in specific, which were young carers. And we provided them access to resources to help aid their mental and physical well-being. So basically like mindfulness audios and boxing focused videos. We start off the design and discovery workshop and design week with Crazy Eights. And what this helped us do was to narrow down and understand the actual problem statement. And we basically added dots so that we can narrow it down even further to features and functionalities and designs that we all liked, both as developers, product owners, but also what we think the users as young carers would enjoy. And once we did that, we moved on to the next stage, which was to create a fully fledged prototype on Figma. So we used similar tools for like the design as did Effie and Jihyun for their team as well. And in this, this helped us to narrow down our features even further because we needed to see what it would look like on the mobile, because we figured for young carers, they would want to use mobile first websites rather than desktop. And I will just go through a quick demo. So this is the onboarding page, and I'll just close this so you can see that it's also desktop responsive. So one plus was that we managed to make it both mobile and desktop responsive. And this is a login and sign up form. So I'm just going to sign up with a random address, and it should. Okay, it's not liking that. Let me just log in instead with Khadija. So this is the homepage. And as you can see, we have a nice personalized greeting saying welcome Shaya. But if I want to change that, I'll just change my username here. So since we signed in as Khadija, I will update it to Khadija. Yeah, there we go. And our main pages were mined. So we have the audio resources that Mindful Peak Performance as a company already had. And you can play them. So you can also filter through them. And depending on which category you're wanting to work on that day. Something that was like the key feature of the app was to have a progress bar or like a chart so that the user can see like how many videos they're watching, how many audios they're listening to. And as you can see, there's already one added onto the chart. So if we just listen to this audio again, I go all the way to the end so we don't waste time. Okay, it's not all the way to the end. And then if you go to progress, you can see it's gone up. And similarly, it would be the same for boxing or body page. But because we only had one content, we couldn't show or render like all the other videos. We only had one video. Another thing that the product owners really want us to have was a persistent logged in state. So when I click on this logo, it will take me back to the onboarding page. However, if I click get started, I will still be back into the app. So this way, the carers can always have a way to be logged in. The only way that they're logged out is obviously to click the log out button. But these were like the main features that they wanted. And I go back to presenting. And I will hand it over to Khadija.
Thank you. I'll talk to you about our tech stack and why we use the tools we used. We mainly used TypeScript for our front end and back end. We used it mainly because we wanted to learn a new language and also challenge ourselves a little bit. We use Firebase for storing and managing our data and also for authenticating our users and also hosting the website. We use React and style components on the front end as well. For our dependencies, we use React spinners for the really cool blue transition loader on the page, and also recharts for building the bar graphs for the progress page. So I'll talk to you about our user testing as it's a bit different from our previous approaches. We couldn't get hold of our users, so we improvised and used this platform called Maze. All we had to do was we input our prototype and then create tasks or questions in terms of task and mission, and then send the link to the user for them to test it out on their own. So I'll tell you a bit about about our experience and how we found using it. So it was quite easy and accurate to track the time the user spent on finishing a task, and also like tracking the user journey and how they used the prototype. It was also quite quick and convenient, as all we had to do was send a link and the user could use it at their own time and space. So in terms of the response, it's a bit varied. So the response is limited in terms of details. We aren't there to prompt the users and ask them questions about their responses and get more details from them. But also it's also unbiased, and we can't really affect the user's responses, as we aren't there to give them our own opinions. So we really enjoyed building this app, and we thought we'd summarize our experience and categorize them into what we're really proud of and the challenges we had. We were able to meet all of our user criteria and build an app that is currently ready to use. It has all the content, and the user can just easily add more content if they have. And it's also very responsive and works really well on both desktop and mobile devices. We were able to work with new tools and technologies, and the user testing was also quite smooth. In terms of the challenges we had to prioritize tasks and couldn't do much testing, unfortunately. And we had a bit of tasks, mainly because of the varied technologies we were using. but we were able to work through those with the support of our mentors and also doing a lot of research on our side. We successfully learned and used TypeScript. I feel like I'm repeating this, but it was quite easy, not easy, but what helped us a lot was learning a bit of the basics before starting to build the process, the build process, and that's really helped us understand our bugs and figure out how to fix them. Implementing the audio and video storage with Firebase was a bit tricky, but we managed to get around that. And there was a bit of weak documentation on some of the like Firebase. Yeah, and for future development, if we had more time to build this app, we would do these 4 things and a bit more, but mainly these 4. We would have a bit more detailed and specific content analytics. And you saw on the progress page, we currently have only 2 bar graphs, so the body and the mind. But it would have been really great to have more categories. So in terms of the mind pages, like the different categories of the meditation audios that the user has watched, or even like how much effort they've put into it over a certain period of time. We would also have expanded our content management system. So currently, our product owner has to go to the Firebase console to add content, but it would have been even better if there was like an admin page for the PO to add any content they have more easily. Also, having user profile functionalities where the user can just track and manage the profiles, and also like a live streaming page for if there were like more boxing videos that our product owners wanted to have to live stream. I think that's mainly it for this, and I'll hand it over to our product owner Luke to talk to you through his own insights.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so just to say, I'm going to talk about, first of all, what I kind of learned through this process. And I was also with my business partner, Matt, who's not here, but we got a lot of clarity in terms of the assumptions we're making about our user group. We do see ourselves as a very user-focused organization, but the kind of questioning we got and the kind of process we went through about explaining the journey made both of us reflect on needing to become more user-focused generally about how we get feedback from the young carers. So I do feel like we've come out of this process more thinking about how do the young carers see the service we're developing. As we're getting bigger and expanding, I think that was a really important kind of thing for us to reflect on. Outside of the kind of like the details, we were able to articulate the journey we've been on from starting a boxing mindfulness group with 1 carers to having over 100 over a very short period of time. And yeah, that really helped us just gain confidence and clarity in what we're doing. Learn to be more realistic. We need way more time to get more kind of meaningful feedback from the young carers. They live very chaotic lives and it's really hard to get focus groups together to actually give meaningful feedback. So we need to give ourselves way more time, and going forward, we really want to do that to make sure that, you know, when we go into our next phase of development with this, we've got a much deeper sense of what the carers think about this. And then the final thing is and now we're in a very clear position with funders where we've got this framework and got some content, but we really know how you know, we can get the funding, but we can update it and kind of manage this now. And we've got a really clear handover note from around that. In terms of where the product is now, so we're ready to do some more user feedback. We're employing somebody as of next week to actually head up our young carers expansion, and part of that role will be to set up a larger focus group so we can get this app out to more young carers and get them to really scrutinize it more. And that will form part of a funding proposal we're putting. We found a funder that we think is quite a good match for us developing content. So the next phase is getting some more deeper user feedback and then applying for funding to develop much more content for this platform. And we've also had conversations with one of our the Children's Society, and we're working closely with Bernardo's, and we've got a provisional agreement once the app is ready to launch it to over 266 organisations that work with young carers, and we're developing a strategy about how we can get this product over the next 12 months to launch in a more systematic way. Yeah, and I guess the last thing, I think I'm not talking necessarily on the points I've raised here, but I think it's clear enough. And then the final thing is, what's going to help us achieve this is, you know, we've made a decision because of the momentum of the work we're doing with young carers and this creating this product. We're now in a position where we want, we've actually employed somebody who's going to be working part-time to kind of scale up our live work online, and also develop the focus group around this product. And you know, just really enjoyed working with the team, and we've created a very clear way for young carers to engage with physical and mental well-being at home when they most need it, because they can't always access services. Yeah, that's me. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, team. And let's have a quick round of clicks again. And I guess it's just me clicking again, but you can hear that. It'll do. Yeah, it was really lovely to see that kind of process of designing and creating the app, as well as what that's kind of informed you of, and all those learnings again from both sides of things. And always kind of having that user focus along the way. Absolutely brilliant to see the kind of challenges and then what's kind of come out of it the other side. Very agile indeed. So I think let's pass to our final presentation. So I'll hand over to our esteemed colleagues, Beth and Jamie.
Thanks, I'll just share my screen here.
Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. Those were really great presentations and brilliant products. It's nice to see that. We are Sienna. My name is Beth and Jamie will be presenting with me. We met in FAC18 last year and have been working on social development projects and learning programs ever since as a digital agency, recently naming ourselves Sienna. We're going to tell you a bit about our recent work with Catalyst on the Discovery Learning Programme, and here is a list of things we'll cover in the next 15 minutes. Jamie's now going to tell you a bit about Catalyst and introduce the programme.
Okay, so yeah, we'll start with a bit of an introduction to the ins and outs of the programme, which we worked on from late September to late October last year. The team we put forward to facilitate was Gregor from Fans and Coders, Bethany and I. And well, for obvious reasons, it was delivered entirely remotely. The project was part of the National Lottery Community Fund COVID-19 Digital Response Funding Initiative in partnership with CAST and supported by the Catalyst Network. So Catalyst is a collective of digital agencies, funders and charities, of which Fans and Coders are a part, as well as perhaps some others of you present this evening. And if you don't know Catalyst's work, you can check out their website for more information, but there's loads of great resources, research, tips and programs run through there. Now I think there's at least one person from CAST here today, so we'll try and do justice here, but the Discovery Learning Programme and all of its moving parts were administered and supported by CAST, from planning and applications all the way through to outcomes. There's a little bit about them on the screen here, but you can check out their website for more information too. And throughout the programme, they ensured that knowledge and learning was shared through various methods amongst the digital partners, the charities, and with everyone's wider networks as well. Probably a lot more behind the scenes as well that I don't know about. So the setup for the programme, there was an option to adapt CAST's design hop framework to use, but through Tech for Better, we already had a fair bit of experience with our own discovery framework. So we took the option to self-design our programme. It was 4 weeks long in total, and there were 6 cohorts of 8 to 10 nonprofits and charities with a digital partner such as us for each. And as I said, there was a focus throughout on sharing knowledge, insights and skills. The objectives, well, the aim of the programme was to equip charities and nonprofits with the tools and skills to understand the needs and behaviours of their communities and support them to begin developing digital projects on validated problem areas, particularly regarding the effects of and their response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this quote on screen here is from the Catalyst website. and kind of describes the purpose of the program and its use. Tech for Better, of course, has the additional goal of upskilling nonprofits in service design and product management, so that they have the knowledge, language, and experience to kind of confidently approach working with digital partners, creating applications for digital funding, or devising meaningful briefs for projects that they want to work on. Our cohort in the Discovery Learning Programme was 9 organisations from quite different areas of social impact. So amongst them we had a music production charity, a charity for those who are at risk of homelessness, one working with families of seriously ill children. So there's quite a lot of variation there, but we found quite a lot of overlap as we were going through the collaboration. And we found that they could learn from one another, even though their user groups were different. Generally, the charities had all embraced digital in their kind of day-to-day, so they're not complete beginners, but perhaps mostly unsure of how best to transition their services online, kind of in a bit of a rush due to COVID-19.
So I'll tell you a bit about the structure of the programme and the tools we used. So as Jamie said earlier, we self-designed the programme based on our previous programmes and our experience at FAC. It spanned 4 weeks with a week each side for prep and documentation. The first week was discovery, identifying their problem areas. The second was definition, understanding the feedback from user research. Third, prototyping to explore solutions with users. And the final week, we supported the organisations in planning their next steps. So we ran 2 workshops per week with drop-in sessions, and we split 3 charities each and ran coaching calls with our mentees. We also asked organisations to hold presentations in weeks 2 and 4. This all meant that we had a real variation of engagement, from collaborative work in the workshops to personalised support for each organisation, and then reflection time for the charities to learn from each other and track their progress. So we used Miro for workshops, mostly you'll be used to that, Notion for administration and planning, Zoom for video sessions, and Slack for our communication.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't really have time to dive specifically into what we did for each workshop, how they led into each other, and all the outcomes. But we've got some nice screen grabs here just to kind of roughly demonstrate the process we went through. So this is our Miro board at the end, all zoomed out, and you can roughly see the 4 weeks divided up here. And all of those yellow bubbles are comments, which we used after each exercise to kind of get the organisations to comment and reflect on each other's problems, solution ideas, and so that we could ensure that kind of ideas were being shared amongst the cohort and kind of generally create like a positive experience between them and kind of break the ice so that they could work well together. So here's an example of one of the user needs statements before, at the very beginning of the program at the top in the blue, and then after a few user research activities underneath. And it was really interesting to see how people's user needs statements and goals changed as they learned more information from their users, from directly asking them about what they need. We looked at assumptions that they were making at the beginning, before research, and how they would be validated by asking questions and working towards a solution. And then we took some of the feedback from the initial user research, grouped them and used them to synthesize insights that could be used to then go towards a solution idea. We mapped out their current service from stakeholders over to goals on the right, and asked questions and find areas where a digital solution could provide a meaningful improvement to their service and how it could go about doing that. And then for collaboration, we took some of those questions. And if you can see here, the pink, green, and yellow sticky notes are questions about 3 different organizations' kind of processes, which we added together so they could get a sense of how their challenges could be grouped together and how that might foster some collaboration or sharing in terms of how they got to their solutions. We went through inspiration from visual things that could be useful that are out there in the world already, and features that work well for users already. And we created some simple wire flow prototypes that could be tested with users. In the end, there were actually a few different variations of simple prototypes that our organizations took out there to test, which was really great to see. They're quite lo-fi in sense because of the time constraint, and we were looking at more at the discovery end of the process. But yeah, they did get some really great feedback from user testing, and were able to kind of iterate on their ideas and hone down what they really wanted to make. And we showed them some ways that they could get the feedback from their usability testing into a nice visual way to be shared with stakeholders or with other organizations. And this is a simple service blueprint from one of the organizations about what their idea could be and what people would see and do when they used it.
I'm going to tell you some reflections that we had after the programme. The first one being bespoke workshops. So in previous programmes and in DLP, we've tailored each workshop to suit the needs of the participants. So this really helps the cohort to get exactly what they need out of the programme. We actually felt before DLP that 3 organisations would be the absolute max, but having had this experience with 9 and tailoring our process accordingly, we've found that bespoke workshops are effective to suit a wide range of group sizes and needs. The second one is foster collaboration early. Prompting early collaboration and discussion allows the cohort members to recognise and exploit similarities in their issues, which in turn then prompts the sharing of tools and ideas from the get-go. The third one, trust the process. Although as facilitators, we can see the bigger picture, the participants may not. So ensuring that they are well informed about the intended process and encouraged along the way to trust it is really important. An exercise might seem redundant or confusing at the time, and it's often a few exercises later that there's an aha moment, and then the benefit of the process is recognised. And we've had a lot of positive feedback about this experience. The fourth is a problem shared. So we definitely saw the value in running a programme with concurrent cohorts where information and issues can be shared and discussed. A structure like this encourages links between networks and allows us to recognise real issues that can be solved in the sector. Expanding on the pool of knowledge that we draw from. And the last reflection is low code, no code. As developers, we're used to building coded web app solutions. It was during this program that we really started to research more of the recent advances in off-the-shelf low code or no code, and we will embrace them actively from now on. This allows for efficiency and reusability, which is a key factor in building tech for the non-profit sector.
As part of our offering in terms of sharing knowledge and insights from the programme, we offered to update the ongoing Catalyst product management curriculum, which is maintained by Founders and Coders. It's another Catalyst initiative, which began during the earlier Tech versus Abuse programme, which Gregor worked on, I think. It's informed by learnings from the Tech for Better programme across the board. So, as well as the programs we've worked on, things such as the other projects we've heard about tonight. And it's regularly shared in the sector and is iterated with new learnings, exercises, reflections, etc. And it's a sort of manual for facilitating learning programs to upskill on service design and digital product management, and aims to be understandable from anyone from an experienced digital agency to staff at one of the charities who might want to try out some of the exercises or revisit something that they might have gone through in one of these programs in the past. So in its current form, it has exercises to help with various stages of the discovery, definition and development journey, and case studies act as recipe guides to creating a program of your own, and tips to do that. And we'll continue to iterate and improve the curriculum with each new Tech for Better program. And I think there's a link at the end of these slides, which we can share if anyone wants to check that out. But perhaps Gregor would share the link in the chat here as well.
So what's next? For our DLP cohort, 3 paths were expected for the cohorts to potentially embark upon. So the first one, continuing discovering their problem area and solution ideas. The second one, furthering definition with some more advanced prototypes. Or the third, moving on to build a bespoke solution or incorporate off-the-shelf solutions into their services. And we have seen that some of our cohort are pursuing the definition program, which will be starting next month. For Sienna, we are currently working on a catalyst development program with Just Like Us, which is an LGBT organisation. We'll be continuing to contribute to the product management curriculum and be involved in Tech for Better. We are also growing our identity within the sector to get more integrated into the network of digital agencies and non-profit organisations. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And again, the clicks from me. If you're able to unmute, do feel free to unmute. Wonderful. And yeah, really great to see your kind of reflections there from that meaningful support. And it really did feel when we were in it and both afterwards, how meaningful that support was to the charities and how valuable that collaborative approach was to support it. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for presenting that back. So I have 2 or 3 more slides to share, and then perhaps we can do a resounding round of applause for the room for all 3 of our presentations. So let me share my screen once more, and I promise it will only be for a minute. Fantastic. And so we've just rounded off our presentations there. And so all that's left to say is thanks very much to the support of the Paul Hamlin Foundation that we've been able to continue our Tech for Better program. And it means that our 4 developers developing the MVPs there have been able to continue working while looking for full-time employment. And so we're very grateful for that support, as well as, oh, there's a slide missing. Let me refresh my deck. Let me say it aloud anyway. We're also so grateful to the support of the CAS team and the Catalyst Network for the kind of continued opportunities to be providing this support to the sector. We always really enjoy running these programs, and we're really grateful for that network existing and for that kind of network supporting the sector more broadly. We do continue to accept applications from would-be product managers for our Tech for Better programs. And yeah, we continue to look for opportunities to expand what we're doing here. If you have any questions about anything you've seen this evening, or if you would like me to share the slide deck that Sienna have presented, then do get in touch with me at greg@foundersandcoders.com. So all that's left to do is celebrate the success of all our teams tonight. So across the board, and also to our product managers for completing the program, whether that be our charities or whether that be our social entrepreneurs. So let me stop sharing my screen there. And I think we can, let's keep the recording on. But I think everyone can now unmute themselves if you want to applaud or give whooping or seal noises or whatever you prefer. Thanks so much, everyone. Great. Well, thank you again to everyone who's joined us this evening. And we shall be back in touch whenever we've got another showcase. Thank you so much, and good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.